quick logistics check. We're talking
Mhm.
Wine Valley at 8 a.m., but we're not cracking a bottle of wine yet, right?
Yes, that's, you know what?
It is Friday.
It is Friday, but that might actually just be the intro line there. We are talking Wine Valley Golf Club, but I don't think I can quite justify the nice bottle pop at 8 o'clock in the morning. So
Maybe we can ask Dan about breakfast wines.
breakfast wines. He might have some good opinions on that.
They
All
might
right,
exist.
let's do this. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, let's
Okay.
roll.
In 5, 4, 3.
Chicks, you know what I'm talking about. That lettuce, that lettuce. Gotta get it. Gotta get it. That lettuce, that lettuce, focused all on the check. Yeah, all I want is lettuce. Yeah, just give me the lettuce. Yeah, just give me the lettuce.
Let us heads, we are back with another edition of Please Let Us Golf, the podcast. Today you got Goldie and Golfberg. Mr. Golfberg, how are we doing this morning?
Hey, good morning and a fine morning. Thanks for having me.
More coffee potting, right? You're loving these AMs out in Seattle, making you get up at the crack of dawn to get these things recorded. But it's worth it, because what are we diving into today? We have a special treat. How special? Because we get to check all of the lettuce heads' favorite boxes. I'm a big data guy, a golfer.
Mhm.
I'm always citing the numbers.
Deep
I
in
don't
them.
hide it. I don't run from it. And I did a little recent polling out on Instagram. We got some good feedback, and it was clear that the listeners' favorite episodes are our travel and course reviews. And guess what? Second was our guest pods. So,
Oh, I thought it was when
yeah,
we rank our favorite golf course snacks.
yes, and that did not meet the top favorite episodes, believe it or not. But today you get the best of both worlds, because we're going to be taking on part 2 of our PNW golf trip. If you remember, earlier in the summer, we did a deep dive on Chambers Bay, but we teased out this amazing time we had out in Walla Walla, Washington at the Wine Valley Golf Club. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive into that trip. We're going to dive into part 2. But to assist us in that journey, we're going to be bringing on in a few minutes Dan Hixson, the designer and architect of Wine Valley Golf Club. He's going to help us guide us through what we believe to be a golf course and experience that should be near the top of any golfer's bucket list.
No, you
And
could be more aggressive with that. I can't believe we get to talk to Dan actually, because this is in my top 5. I don't want to bury the lead. Truly,
God,
this course surprised the hell out of me. It blew me away. I couldn't
no,
believe how beautiful and fun and how amazing it was. It
And,
was
and
awesome.
that actually, that is a good segue into my soliloquy of
Oh,
of we mean that, right? I'm
yeah.
not gonna quite spoil my ranking yet, but Mr. Golfberg just had high praise for it. But we take the reviews seriously. We don't do fluff pieces. We actually get some flack for some what we think is fair criticisms of these places, because we know you have finite time and finite dollars. So
Yeah.
we try to do an as objective of a review as possible. And what I'll say about this, my going into teaser about Wine Valley is, I'm not going to disrespect it and call it a hidden gem, because it is a top 100 ranked golf course in the United States, public golf course in the United States. But I'll say at a minimum, it is extremely underrated as a course and as an experience, because it blew the doors off the majority of these quote top 100 ranked courses we played. And we come from a place of some confidence in saying that, right? Because between the two of us, we've played we basically played the current top 30 and 50 of the top 100 courses. So we're not just, oh, we played 2 tracks and, oh, this was sick, this was pure, this was green. We're coming into this with a lot of thought. So,
Yeah, and I think one interesting thing about this course, which probably could affect rankings, is it's a little hard to get to. I mean, I'm out closer to Seattle, and you're like, I'm going to Walla Walla. And I'm like, I've heard of that. And you look on the map, it's like, whoa, that's a drive. I mean,
see, you keep accidentally teeing up. This is great, because I do this planned intro. We don't
oh,
let Golfberg see it, and he just feeds off of
they
me.
don't let me
And
see anything.
you're accidentally teeing up literally my next thing, because I was going to say the best part of this is, we talked about Chambers Bay, but we didn't really get into really all the details of how that came about. I live in Georgia. Mr.
Mhm.
Golfberg lives out in Seattle. And the best part of planning golf trips for us is, even though it's in his home state, I get to do all the planning of the golf still. It's just go figure. But really, how this came about is I go on an annual couples trip with non-golf friends.
Right.
We usually go to wine country. You go Napa, Sonoma. We kind of rotate it. But this year, I convinced the group we need to mix it up, and we got to go to Walla Walla. And as a wino, look, it's a booming AVA, fancy term for wine region, district, whatever you want to call. And if you are into wine, they're producing some of the best wines in the country, and we love rating and rankings. You can get the same quality wine you're getting out of places in Napa and Sonoma about half the price point. So that's not a bad deal either if you're
Real
trying to do
value.
the real value. Um, but but this was not supposed to be a golf trip, but we were flying into Seattle, so I got the wife on board to say we're gonna check off Chambers Bay at least to start the trip. But as the trip got closer, we're staying a mile from Wine Valley Golf Club. I'm doing more and more research. I'm like, Aaron, we got to at least see this property. And he's telling me, we're walking a tightrope because the wives were coming out. It's not supposed to be an additional round of golf. But so what did I do? I was proactive and I contacted Tyler, the pro out at Wine Valley. I kind of explained the situation, who we are. And man, I just got to say, like, shout out to the whole team, the grounds crew, the assistant pro. They accommodated us. They had it open at first light, course to ourselves, fully set up, immaculate condition. And that was kind of a common theme. We might get into some more Walla Walla talk as the pod goes on. Like, it is a really cool town because you feel like your friends, you're a local, you're very comfortable with every place you go to. So
Yeah,
and
it's
that
very chill.
it's certainly extended out at Wine Valley Golf Club. But even with that, I will say we don't want to be swindled. We love good hospitality and friendliness, but we still got to judge the course and experience on its merits. And I'll just say my final comment before we move on to any of your finals or on to Dan is, man, when you just step on the property, the coolest thing is I don't even have a comp for it because it is such a unique experience, especially in the United States, that I just can't wait to deep dive it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just because the logistics of this are all important, obviously. So we're
Mhm.
thinking we're on a wife's trip. We've got an invite now to play a really special golf course. How do we squeeze this in? So the plan is Monday morning, we're going to show up at about 5:30 in the morning to this golf course. So the day before, we bought what, four, five, 6 bottles of wine. We got everyone super sloshed. And we're like, you just sleep in, ladies. We're going to be fine. We planned ahead of time. They're drinking wine. We've got grape juice. We're faking them out because
No,
we know we need.
I wish we were faking them out,
You're
but
right. All
yeah.
right. We just dealt with it. But like, we were super excited to wake up at the crack of dawn. And it's just that Eastern Washington, the sunrise, and Wine Valley is just a special place. The terrain is magnificent. The sunrises are gorgeous, purple sky, and we just got to have a really, really fun experience. So yeah, let's jump into it.
All right. There's no better words than that. So without further ado, let us heads please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Dan Hixson. Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
Good morning, guys. Great to be here.
All right,
Yeah,
Dan.
man. Thanks for coming on. We talked for a minute before we got going. Certainly, debriefing our travels is some of our favorite thing to do, but being able to share that kind of experience through the lens of somebody who created and made it happen is even cooler. But we just did all this teasing to lead into Wine Valley, but now we're going to pause again, right? We're going to break the fourth wall. This was all planned and designed, but we'll learn a little bit about you, Dan, because you got a pretty unique history in the game of golf, and I would say maybe an unorthodox journey into architecture and design.
Okay. Well, first off, thanks for all those kind words. I'm embarrassed to hear such great things about Wine Valley, but much appreciated. Um, yeah, I grew up in golf. My dad was a golf professional from day one for me, and I have an older brother that's now just retiring as a club professional, and I am still a PGA pro, but grew up in golf. And when I was quite young, at 7 years old, my dad took me out to Eugene Country Club, which is a great golf course. It was a Chandler Egan course that in the late 60s got reversed into its existing course. And at that point, I told my dad that very day, seeing it under construction, that this is what I wanted to do, is design courses. I was too young before that to even know that they were even built. I just thought courses were there.
They
And
just
so
exist.
that stuck for like 30 years. That I wasn't a great student. I mean, I didn't really have a academic background that inspired me. And so I always wanted to design courses, even though I went through a playing career and a club pro career. I finally got to the point where I resigned from my position. It was at Columbia Edgewater, a very nice club in the Portland area, great players club, and just jumped in cold turkey, becoming a designer. Never worked for anybody, and just did the smallest little projects, and kind of used my father's name and my brother's name and my name within our region to get work, usually through golf professionals, and just slowly build up a portfolio that now today I'm just amazed at how the whole thing happened and works. And yeah,
Hey,
so that's
Dan,
a
as,
short version.
as someone who has a couple kids, I have a 10-year-old boy who I wish just was like, hey, Dad, all I want to do is be a golf course architect, or anything with golf would be awesome. Like, what do you think? I know you're just kids. They're like, I'm going to be a veterinarian. That's not really the point. But what do you think about architecture specifically, or the idea of design? Because, you're just in the golf world. It could have been anything.
Well, like I said, kind of growing up on golf, and I was the youngest of 4 kids. And so I started playing, at 3 or 4. I mean, I don't even really remember the first golf. And, with Dad working we were always small town. He was just a local mom and pop club professional. And so we just kind of lived at the golf courses. And even by then I had started drawing little stick figure golf holes, even at that age, because they were on the back of scorecards, nothing elaborate. And then after that day, at Eugene Country Club, and seeing a few excavators and dozers, all little
Right. Yep.
boy kids are
Yeah,
really
you got
into
the
that.
trucks
And
out there. Yeah.
yeah. And then, but the other thing too, there was, I don't know who it was. It may have been one of the Jones brothers or even Robert Sr. They had a truck out there, and they had the plans on the hood, and they were looking at it. And I asked Dad what that was. And he says, well, that's the plans. And, somebody thinks of the golf course and draws it out. And that was when the light really went
Totally.
on. It's like, yeah.
That's awesome.
And I was a club pro for 12 years at a couple clubs, as well as Columbia Edgewater for the last 10. And so it kind of gave me a real well-balanced background in the study of it. And, I really understood golf from teaching 80-year-old ladies to near tour pro players to almost, being a touring pro, but not a PGA touring pro, to running tournaments and so on. I just felt like I had as good a background on, the game of golf as you could get. So I sort of just self-taught through, the joy of golf courses. And the other funny part about the Eugene thing is they reversed that golf course. They took the 18th green and turned it into the first tee all the way around. And so the first tee became the 18th green, the 18th green became the first tee. And so when he told me that just sort of stuck with me. And we looked at every golf course backwards, or I looked at a lot of golf holes backwards, saying, hey, would this be a better hole if the tee was on the green, and vice versa, which led to Sylvie's. I don't know if you guys know much about that project, but I built a reversible course. Really, we started as the first one in the U.S. and the Loop Dokes course opened earlier, just because we took so long, kind of the way we built it. But and actually, Wine Valley, I made plans to do that reversible at one point.
We have to break that down a
Yeah.
little bit. I'm really intrigued by
Yeah.
the whole reversible concept. You're like St. Andrew. Go ahead, Goldie. I know you have a thought.
Yeah, no, I was going to lead into that. So kind of what is that timeline from when you made the leap of, okay, I understand you had a competitive career. You'd made
Yep.
the decision to go to being a club pro, but club pro to starting to dabble into design, and you're getting little renovation projects, whatever that looks like.
Basically, all through the 90s, I was at Columbia Edgewater, head pro for the last 9. In 99, I resigned from the club to start a business. And then I sort of had to downscale my life, basically reduce it where I wasn't going to make much money, kind of starting it. I didn't really want to go to work for anybody unless I had to. And I didn't really, I tried to do everything I could do. I turned down a few jobs and so on just to get my own. I really started the business, I think, in late 2000 or early 2001. And I did very small things. And then finally, actually, Columbia Edgewater brought me on to co-design a par 3 course in a short game area. And so they're a good high-end club, but I wasn't really getting any traction with any country clubs, so to speak. And then they saw that, and then the country club started calling, and so I started, building a lot of short game areas. A 2 acre short game area that you could work on any short game shot. And I think my first call for Wine Valley was really would have been my first golf course. Was around 03 or 04, and it came through a golf pro that was in the area and had this dream of putting this course together and called me. Well, it took about 4 years to put that project together from my first trips out there, which was on a different piece of land than where the course ended. It was about 4 years before we started that. Different investment groups, all this. And in the meantime, I get this phone call from a golf pro friend of mine that says, there's this couple at my club in Eugene that want to build a golf course in Bandon, and they'd like to talk to you. And it's like, yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. They're going to hire me for that. Well, as it turned out, I designed and built that course before Wine Valley ever started. So Bandon Crossings, excuse me, was my first full 18-hole project.
When you say Bandon, you probably see the flag behind me. We
Yep.
we had Bandon ends up coming up on this pod often because
Yep.
it really becomes so Bandon Dunes Resort becomes the kind of the gold standard of resort golf and public golf in the United States. But I'm going to be honest with you, Dan. We don't BS a guess. We went twice in 2022 and 2023. When I went in 2022, I didn't know anything about Bandon Crossings, right?
Yep.
It's you could probably describe it better, but it's kind of like across the other side of the street where the Bandon property is. And 2022, a caddy was like, hey, you come back, you got to do Bandon Crossings. You really are going to enjoy it. You got to do it. We had some tough weather in 22. And so when we went to 23, we said, nah, we're still going to do the Bandon thing. So what I'll tell you this is I'm fully committed. We're supposed to be going out again next year. That playing Bandon Crossing is going to be at the top of my list. But give us the sales pitch, though. People, for me, I'm coming out from southeastern United States. Very difficult place to get to. You're excited about Bandon Dunes. What offering do you think Bandon Crossing gives you as another complimentary option if you're going to be staying in that area?
Yeah, I mean, your story is just perfect. Is how it has worked. A lot of people just go to Bandon. Sometimes they take a bus or plane. They don't have transportation. The Bandon Crossings is about 10 miles away. So usually it's people that have driven to the resort that would venture there. But oftentimes those first 1, 2, or 3 trips, they don't think about it because there's so much to offer at Bandon. And those courses are so great. And, the whole experience there, from the lodging to dining and all that stuff, is why leave? And but over time, people are curious, and the caddies are a great supporter. They love Bandon Crossings. They can take a cart, as well as the public can
That's
take
a
a
major
cart, which
plus.
is a big deal. Is when you
Yep.
play, if you're playing 36 a day and you're not used to playing 36 a day, at lunchtime
Yeah.
the second day, your dogs are barking, and
Oh, yes.
a cart makes a lot of sense. And we have a course that's maybe, I mean, it's hard to describe what it is. It's more like Bandon trails of anything, but we have ryegrass fairways and bent grass greens, and so it may feel a little more like home to a lot of people as far as the grasses, because the fescue can be really difficult for some players to play off of. They're not used to bumping it along and the tight lies and stuff, and so. So it's I mean, it's a beautiful piece of land. It has great diversity. It really has 9 holes on one side, which is part of the front and part of the back, that are kind of pasture land. And then you kind of deep dive down through this. The crossing is through this low area, kind of a valley, and then you play up in the forest for 6 or 7 holes, and then you come back to the pasture. So it has great diversity. I had great people helping me build it. The contractor who would build a lot of the stuff, Tony Russell, a local down there, and great owners that really very quickly trusted me and let me do my thing, and which is kind of amazing, being the first course I'd done and really only in the business maybe a handful of years, and so yeah, it was a great experience.
We're almost to the point where we just got to go and pull the Band-Aid off here and deep dive all things Wine Valley. But we have, so just to close the loop on it. So tell us a little bit about Sylvie. So the reversible course concept, how did that come to be, and a little bit about that
But what
project.
does that mean? Like literally, What literally break it down for me. I don't think people like to say it, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
Reverse the golf course.
I finished Wine Valley. We open it, and 2 months later, I'm at Sylvie's studying this 1,000-acre parcel of land of trying to figure out a course. And the owner wants to build an eco-friendly resort, and so we decide we can build. I make this proposal to him that I would do part of the course reversible, and we start talking about it. And he's not a hardcore golfer at all. And I tell him about St. Andrews and everything, and he probably says, or he eventually says, why the hell wouldn't we just do the whole thing reversible? You can get 2 courses for the land of 1 or thereabouts, and you get
So
2
just real
courses
quick,
as a guest.
you're on the second hole. There's a tee box and a green. So if it's reversed, what is that? You're not teeing off on a green and then putting on a tee box. Is it like you're going from the green you're going to the green on the first hole from the tee box on 3? Like, just how does it work logistically?
Yeah. So, well, and I complicated it more. In its
okay.
simplest form, the first tee would, from its location, there would be a putting green that becomes 18 the next day.
Okay.
Okay, and it would usually be real close to the tees can be very close to the greens because you're only going to be using them in one direction. So a tee for number 1 right next to the 18th green it's the 18th hole that day, so nobody's on that tee. And then vice versa. But in its simplest form, you'd have 18 greens. This is what Tom Doak did at the Loop. 18 greens, and there's tees basically at every green that go back up one fairway or the fairway that connected to it. And so essentially you play a golf course, clockwise one day, the next day you go counterclockwise. And at Sylvie's, though, I complicate it because, one, I had a huge piece of land, and there was no rules. I mean, Doak hadn't started the Loop by the time I was 2 or 3 years into it. And the owner just wanted something cool and special and didn't have the restrictions of traditional golf. And I'd played St. Andrews a couple times. I hadn't played it reversible, but essentially, they have 11 greens for their reversible course, and Doak has 18. We have 27, but that was mainly because of this vast piece of property that we had some drop-off shots that wouldn't make a good hole going back up the hill, right? A par 4 with a big drop-off tee shot and then a shot into the green. If you played straight up the hill, it wouldn't be good. So I had the ability and land to go around that hill on a kind of a separate hole. You only play one direction. So it's very hard to, like, I couldn't tell you how many fairways there are on our course because they blend in together. There's a stretch where the holes kind of zigzag back and forth, and there's a green and a tee and a green and a tee and a green and a tee and a green and a tee, and so there's a fairway that's 7 or 8 holes long.
So how often do you do it? Like, is it like once a week we're going to play the course is set up to play backwards?
No,
or is it
every day? They switch every day. Yeah.
Is there a version to you that's noticeably better? Or do you feel like both offer kind of something different and interesting?
There's generally one is favored just a little bit, but not by much. One has a little better views, maybe slightly easier. When you play it in the reverse, there's a little more protection from the bunkers and so on. You got to kind of some carry bunkers and stuff around the greens. But I like the other one better, the one that's lesser, but it's like 48 to 52%.
It sounds super fun if you're going to be at a course for, a lot. You want to be able to switch things up. At our course, this is a little different, but they can turn the 18 holes into a par 3 course where, you're teeing off on like the 10th tee box to the 9th green, and they make it like 140 yards, but it's all these crazy hidden shots. And it was so fun. And they do it like once or twice a year. I'm like, they should do this once or twice a month. It's just such a cool way to mix up you get new looks on the green.
What course is that?
Oh, club. I'm at the Plateau Club in Sammamish. Are you familiar?
Yeah.
I know you're kind of.
I know about it. I'm doing a lot of work now in the Seattle area and Washington in general, at Glendale and North Shore and Linden and Billingham and
Yeah.
And so I know of Plateau, but I haven't been there. But yeah, it sounds
too
neat.
bad, because it'd be fun to have you on here to prove to Goldie it really is one of the toughest courses I've ever played. It's the best course.
Dan, do you play anymore at all?
I do, but not a whole lot. I'm still technically, I pay my dues. I'm still a PGA pro. I'm an A16 as opposed to A1s like a head pro, and there's all these categories. I often play, like I'm going down to Bar Run, my last course down in Roseburg next weekend, and I'll play a couple days down there. It seems like more of my golf is played on projects, sometimes out in the dirt, boots and blue jeans,
Yeah.
and go play a few holes.
Yeah.
And but I but that's more of a life choice. There's no reason I shouldn't. I got plenty of access to courses all around. I live I live in Vancouver, Washington, just next to the Portland area.
I do want to get into Wine Valley though, because I want to have enough time to be able to do it justice. Look, we've had a lot of positive words to say about it, but I kind of want to bring that to life. And if for the listener, for the listening audience, if you do watch this one on YouTube, we're going to have some picture and video overlay from our time out there. So if we're talking about something specific, hopefully we got some cool moments to help, while we're doing the narration, some supporting footage as well. But I want to start with, you mentioned a couple times of you had this like 3-4 year gap
Yeah.
of a delay. And I can't imagine with how expansive the property is. It's like, on one hand, I could see you doing a million things with it, and there's like not a right or wrong answer. It's just, how can you, I know it's always a puzzle, but especially there, just seeing that type of land, but also with a delay. Like me, I'm a type A crazy. I'd be driving myself nuts. I can't imagine. You probably literally had 1,000 routing ideas, but how does that process narrow into like, this is the best version of what we can do at the property?
Yeah, that's a great question, because to a degree, you always question yourself on that. Nothing flagrant, but you think, well, maybe I should have backed that tee up 50 yards, and the green should have been 50 yards back as well to get a different
Mhm.
deal and stuff. Um, I made a bunch of trips. It was about 4 hours from where I lived to from home to Wine Valley, and I went a lot when there was nothing happening, just to familiarize myself with the land. One great thing that happened is, getting hired and building Bannon Crossings. I really evolved from my first trips at Wine Valley until we started it, just because I built a golf course before that. Wine Valley would have been the first, but Bannon Crossings jumped in there. And so I gained so much experience and confidence in, I never really worried about my knowledge in golf and scale and putting that out. There was a lot of things in the business that I did worry about, and mainly how to get business. But drainage, irrigation, there's usually somebody involved that's a lot smarter than me and knows all that stuff. So I don't have to know all that. Um, but the routing, I had several versions, and the early owners, we walked it and looked at it and talked about it and had drawings and stuff. And then there was a few moderate changes when the actual builder owner, the person that owns it now, Jim Poliska, came in.
I talked to you for a minute on the phone the other day, even trying to describe the course. Like, if you just go to websites and stuff, they say it's a links style, da da da, and certainly off the tee, and definitely we'll get into elements on the back nine. It felt as linksy as you're going to get in the United States. But then there's this element of the approach play that felt very familiar to me from a championship golf kind of style of golf course.
There is so much, when you stand on that 18th tee and you can see to the east the Blue Mountains, and you can see all the way, all the Horse Heaven Hills in Oregon, because it's close to that border. And then, like you
I don't
said,
remember that, Dan. I just remember being really nervous on the 18th tee, but I was protecting a 2 under round, but
oh yeah,
Yeah,
I was shaking in my boots.
we're gonna get there. Don't worry, we're gonna
Yeah.
tee it up. You see that wine? If you, for the listening audience, if you see the Wine Valley flag being on Mr. Golfberg's screen,
Yeah, I saw it.
Dan, we have a running bet. So when we started ramping up our travels a couple years back, if we go to any signature course, and anybody breaks par, the group has to buy the other person a flag. It's just
Oh,
kind of
great.
your token. I, for some reason, am in the king. This is not just to make it about me, even though it is for a second. I, for some reason, figured out, like, on almost every cool course we've gone to shoot even par and not earn a flag. So we were saying, like, maybe we should have an alternative bet to where I get like a sticker for free or something from the course. But we'll
Yeah.
get into Aaron's round. But he had a great day going.
So you didn't, at least we know you didn't make a double or higher.
We know
No,
I didn't make a double.
We didn't make. He did not. We'll tease that out, Dan.
Yeah, we
Professional way
Okay.
of doing it. He did not make a double or higher, but there was a little drama there.
A little bit.
But do want to. So when you get onto this first tee, I do have a couple notes here because I mean we could probably go hole by hole, but I got some holes that at least I wanted to highlight out. Um, I feel like you get that immediate wow factor, right? Like you have this, you see the expanse, you see, okay, there is this really, really large bunker feature on the right. But for me, it's like, okay, like I can take that line on, but like you said, it gives you the option to play. It's a lot of space left there. So how much do you want to bite off? And then, so of course, it's a cool tee shot. You get up there, but when you're hitting that approach and you see that first green, for me, it's like I know architects don't love being bucketized into like, oh, this is a particular style, and I'm not very familiar with your work. Having the first course of yours I played, but it's like I'm all in because my eye is what you're seeing is what I like to see on a golf course. And a lot of that, like a lot of Tom Doak's golf courses, I get that where it does all of the things that I like out of a golf course as a quote better player. It does give me a little space to operate off the tee, but there's decision off the tee because do I want to take on that bunker?
Yeah.
It gives you just creative shot options into the green. And we saw it the first time. And by the way, shout out to the agronomy crew out there. The conditions were, I mean, they were outstanding. It was as firm and fast as it could be, was still being like within the realm of playability for any skill level. And you had that bounce into the green. We have some crazy videos of us hitting wedges in that first
Are
hop.
we going to talk about the turf right
Yeah,
now?
we'll talk about the turf. Bring it up. I know you're a
I don't.
huge turf guy.
I'm not. I don't even know how to talk about this, Dan. All I can say is it's the best turf I've ever played on. Now, maybe I
man.
was compressing the ball at a way that I was hitting it good, but I don't think that's the point. It felt like the ground was literally helping your golf game. Like if you swung right, it was going to assist the ball. And the first bounces, like, you know how when you're playing good, you can feel things around you almost. You just get into it. That the feeling of the first bounce around the green, like it was like it's soft yet receptive, and then starts moving towards the hole. And it's like this place was made for golf. I'm wondering if you knew that right when you got there, or what the hell is going on there. That's my question.
Yeah, a lot of things happened. Well, I mentioned back at Bandon, Tony Russell, who built Bandon Crossings and a lot of the Bandon courses. His brother Troy was the superintendent for a long time at Bandon, and he came on as our kind of our agronomy expert, and he spec'd out the turf there. We knew we wanted fescue because of the hotter climate and just for that, but fescue alone is not all that good for carts. They get beat. It gets beat up.
Okay.
It can be off-putting for some people color wise, not to me, but some people
Yeah.
want green
Yeah.
and lush. So we did a mix, and I'm just guessing here. I can't remember because of the years go by. I think it was 80% fescue, 20% bluegrass, which is not a normal combination, but the blue sort of gives it a little bit of meat underneath the turf, and the fescue, because fescue can be very thin, kind of like the top of my head, where it's very sparse, but that's what makes the ball shoot and kick, because it's a round blade of grass, fescue.
Wow.
Whereas bluegrass and POA and Bermudas, they all have a folded deal, which is, catches the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really worked out great. And they sort of have two different properties. For bluegrass, kind of wants more water and more fertilizers, and fescue thrives okay being a little starved on both ends. And so we treated a little more for the fescue, but the blue still survives and everything, and just gives that great combination. Like you said, you can putt from 40 yards off the green, or you feel like you can still get an L wedge under that. There's enough meat under that
literally,
turf.
Dan, what you're describing. I'm glad to hear you say it like that, because I was going to ask the question. I don't want to just restate what you said, but it really is the best of both worlds. You get all of the fescue features that if you're a golf sicko and you love the austere look, it's not that, but you get that firm, fast roll. You can play all those shots on the ground. It brings interesting decisions in off the tee. But to Aaron's point, while it was still firm through the ball, there was just enough give to get just like elite level country club compression.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this is the best of both worlds. If you're the Myrtle Beach golfer and you want plush green as your prerequisite for good golf, you're going to hit off these fairways and be like, this is amazing. But if also you are the, traditional Scottish Irish links type, you're going to go like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So really, really cool feature. Definitely probably underrated aspect of it.
Yeah. Tyler Tyler Daniels, our superintendent there, just does, and he was there during construction from day one too. And so he does a great job.
So, so we get through these first couple holes. We're sitting there. We did mention we were a few bottles of wine deep the night before, but we were doing good, and we are like, man, are we just getting lost in the sauce here? I was like, is this good? And we're like, well, we got to see some more before. You don't want to just get tricked the first couple holes in. But we get to the first par 5, and I love it because you got this kind of center line bunker feature, and it's a choose your own adventure. And you can go right, you can go left. You go left, you're bringing in the water feature approach, and it's a little bit more of an intimidating shot. But you also get into another kind of a massive multi-tiered green. And what I noticed throughout the course is there are runoffs, for the lesser initiated. There are these ejection slopes if you miss it in the wrong spot. But for every one of those, there is a helping feature that you can use to call it funnel, but to strategically use the ball to, you don't have to be flagging it. You can cut it off that back left slope. You can play a running shot into this green. You could fly it into that green. And that to me was just, it was the first time it really hit me on the property of, oh, this is going to be a fun day, because if you're willing to be a little creative, you can hit some really close and cool shots without having to take on the short-sided slope that's going to leave you an impossible up and down. So is that a common feature of a lot of your courses, or does that property kind of bring that to life there?
Well, I've never played Pinehurst number 2, but I don't think I would like it in that sense. Because it would just be too hard for the majority of people. It's great for a US Open and all that.
Yeah.
And so I always just sort of felt like if you're going to have some of that runoff, that you should equalize it on the other side. Not each hole, but if you have 5 holes that run off, you have 5 holes that run on and that you can use. And I really give a lot of that credit for those slopes with Kai Golby, who was our lead shaper, and has worked for everybody and is building golf courses on his own now, and just really brilliant guy. And like number 1, that left side of number 1, we played around with that, or he played around with that a lot. We thought, is that too steep? Is it not? So, but that's a perfect example. If for number 1, this left side slope, if you hit a hook into it, say with a 9-iron or 8-iron or wedge or 5-iron, it might hang up there. But if you hit the ball kind of on the ground, a little lower, straight shot, or maybe even a cut, it feeds off that just beautifully, and you don't have to risk that fall off on the right side. But if you, like I said, if you make a mistake and just hook a short iron in there, it might stick. And so there's a real balance of how steep that should be or can't, what makes that work. And
and my eye would tell me don't try to hit a draw there, but some people are kind of stuck with what they got, so you're just gonna have to, and that wouldn't be ideal.
Just to use that slope for sure.
So on to number 4. So we look, I said I wasn't going to go hole by hole, but there's so many that we wanted to highlight. So 4, it has one of the coolest green complexes for me. I love those kind of, I'm sure there's a technical term, but those kind of long peanut type of looking greens that move vertically from your orientation, but it's a shorter par 4. And again, this is another decision point. It has a center line bunker, but it's more of like hey, you don't want to be left of this bunker. You got a little space of it, but it's one of those ones where you got a really bad angle into that green. But if you are going right, it's one of the harder placement shots, at least visually off the tee. When you get up there, you do have a little more space than it looks like, but with the conditions being firm, you got fescue run out. You want to cover the big bunkers short. There's fescue run out right. There's a death pop bunker in the middle. So, but you get a reward if you get up there on the right. You just have this runway green, and so just some really cool, subtle features on that. And again, I think pulling off short par 4s are kind of hard to make them unique, but that was okay, we just kind of went back to back center line bunkers, but for completely different reasons and completely different outcomes. So another one, I loved it.
Again, I throw a ton to Kai there. He built that on one of my trips away, not when I was there. And my plan was
we got to hire good people.
Yeah, I did. And I think I told Andrew earlier that I kind of have to swallow my ego on that one, because I came back and I look at this and it's like, holy smokes, this is not at all what I had planned, but it's way better. And so part of it is saying, Kai, I have a plan for a reason, and this all, is supposed to be anyway. And it was fine. I mean, we may have argued a little bit about it, but I'm smart enough to know that better the product, who cares who did it? I mean,
Yeah.
a great product is more important. But it's funny, Andrew, when you say your description of it, you don't want to go left and go right. I am 100% the opposite. It feels I aim right at that center line bunker and just draw it a little bit. And I feel like I got a bank over there, and I much prefer that hazard left and kind of, hitting maybe a small hook around that
And
bunker. I get on the right, I get nervous as heck because if I pull it a little bit, I go down in that deep bunker.
well, that's a good pro tip there. So maybe, hey,
Yeah.
don't heed my advice. I just saw it the way I
Yeah,
thought.
no, and
Maybe
to me that's good design. Where I don't know sounds like you're a scratcher better, and
Mhm.
I used to be. I'm just probably a 1 or 2 or 3 now, and it's that distinctive. Same with back to number 3. Some people go right, some people go left, and it really just depends on
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah, no, which is that's a great. I mean, options off the tee are most places are you just don't get it.
yeah,
It's more of an if then statement, or it's just penal, like don't go here, and
yeah,
that certainly wasn't the case.
yeah.
So I do got to bring up for Mr. Golfberg's sake. So number 6, the
Wait, you're
first
skipping
par
5
3.
though?
What? Wait, why am I skipping 5?
I just want to shout out the green on 5. Right,
5 is the long par 4, right? With the
and the
big
green
left to right
sloping big
sloping
left to
green.
right. And I
And the
Yeah.
just thought
wash.
like the second
Yep.
shot I had probably 200 yards. I thought I hit a good drive, still pretty far out. You obviously
Yep.
don't want to be right. And I'm looking up at the top of the hill on the left. I'm like, maybe I can just cut a 4-iron up there and it'll be nice to me. And it's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Receptive bounce and just bounce, bounce, roll, and just
Yeah.
makes like so many times it felt like the hole was a little bit of a magnet. Mind you, I think you're finding the right angle, the right slope, but
Right.
that's what makes this course so friggin' fun. Like you could just get
But
rewarded with.
But Aaron, like you said, you did that, and then I step up and go, well, I'm going to try to kind of carbon copy and not take on the pin. I'm going to use that slope, but I carried it about 3
Oh,
yards too far. And instead of catching the quote funnel, which I don't like that term, but the proper slope to the pin,
Yep.
I got all the way to the backside of the green and had a
like an 80 foot,
65-foot
yeah.
lag. Yeah, 80-foot
Yeah.
lag putt. So so those things are there for sure.
Yeah, I just
quick-
enjoyed the whole bit.
I don't want to take too long, but a quick funny story about that wash, that goes down the left side of that hole and then crosses over and goes to the right of the green. It
Mhm.
actually goes back through 14 and 12. That's
Mhm.
where it starts. And we were on site getting ready to build the course, and that still wasn't on the plan. And I thought of it just whenever driving back and forth from Portland. And I took a dozer and went up once. I started way up top and put the blade crooked and carved this edge, and then went back up the hill the other side, and it kind of just random. And then what we did is everybody on the crew that could really operate either a dozer or an excavator, I gave them a section to work on, and they wouldn't work on both sides. I'd say, you work on the left side of that swale for like 200 yards and do what you want, and then somebody else will work on the other side. And so it's just completely random looking, which
Cool.
happens out there in Mother Nature when there's a big blowout wash. It just sort of goes up and
Wow.
over and leaves big deposits and stuff. So anyway,
Well, that's smart
Yeah,
too.
you
You get a
would-
few different people on it, some different
Yeah.
brains, and just
Well, you wouldn't even know that was manufactured.
cool.
Then that's
Yeah.
cool. So number 6, the par 3. Not that I didn't like the par 3, but I definitely had to highlight it because we had a near ace caught on camera. It was the heart was beating a little bit there from from Aaron.
yeah,
But we caught that kind of back left shelf pin, and it was
Yeah.
another one where it's like, I mean, it's a very small shelf to get it back there, but you could be a little long, little left, and it'll come back down.
yeah,
But yeah, just kind of another. It was bold. It was just like a big feature on the green. But I got some comments on a couple of the other par 3s coming up. But just had to give a shout out.
Thank you.
Credit where credit's due for the near ace.
Yeah, thanks, Dan, for that hole. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you. But 7, I know there's a lot of I've seen you on a couple things before, and 7, rightfully so, gets a lot of attention. So it's a longish par 5. But I think that approach shot in the green is what we're talking about. So tee shot's just kind of straightforward, but it leaves you, I don't remember what I had. I had like 250 something stick. You have this massive bunker and you don't see the green. So you get a reveal on the hole.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
you hit it and you hit it good. My ball disappears, and we're like, okay, it cleared the bunker, so that's good. It didn't get in this massive death bunker. But man, you come around the corner and you see one of the maybe the best example of a punch bowl I've ever played. So any stories, anecdotes how the punch bowl came about?
Kai's get I'm like a
Kai- Kai-
promote. Yeah,
You know what,
so
Dan? If you could give us a second, we're gonna call Kai to get him on
exactly
here. We're gonna
replace
put you
me.
on put you on the bench for a
Well, he
minute.
would be a great guy for your podcast too. He would love it. He's very
Yeah.
intelligent. Uh, my plan showed the green location in about the same spot because there's the big valley that the fairway runs down, but then there's this little sub valley that we built the green in, and he just kind of I'd staked out, center of the green and maybe the outside dimensions, and he said, we really have an opportunity here if we build something out in front of it to build a punch ball, and it's like he'd already won me over by then. I could see that he was as passionate as I was about it, and he wasn't going to say it just because he wanted to build a punch bowl. He thought it was the best for that deal. And so,
Hmm.
man, when we first looked at those side slopes of how sharp that was, and it was like, wow, how cool. Can we grow
Hmm.
grass and mow it? But the beauty of that punch bowl, everybody thinks a punch bowl, everything settles to the middle and they're super easy. But I think what the brilliant thing he did there is there's kind of a ridge from the left side's lower than the right side. And
Mm.
you can easily come into that green on the left with a big slingshot off the punch bowl and end up on the right. Two balls come on that green and you walk up there and you don't know which one is which. Cause like you
Hmm.
said, the reveal and that ridge really separates the two. And it's nothing major, but it really stops balls and makes balls fall the other way. And so, um, as easy as so many times when it helps you, there's other times where people walk in there and they think, oh, this you'll be amazed, this green's so easy, and then they three jack,
No, yeah.
from 8 feet. And
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of little subtle movement on that green too. That's
yeah.
a little trickier than meets the eye, right? Because I think you get baited in by the big features that you don't realize there's just this little subtle slope.
Yep.
And yeah, we had a couple misreads ourselves, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, what a special golf hole, and really just okay. So Aaron, we're finishing up the front nine here, and
Hmm.
we're like, well, we're not trying to jump to conclusions, but at a minimum, this is exceeding expectations. I think that's a fair way to say it. And we roll into the back, and you obviously cut me off if you got anything you want to highlight. My signature for the back, which really hit me, was that 13 to 15 stretch. And again,
Yeah.
that's just me. Not that I didn't enjoy the opening few holes. You know, I think the tee shot on 10 sets the tone for the back. For me, I thought there was more teeth on the back nine. Just where I hit the ball, it was necking in a little bit harder, a little more demanding off the tee,
Yeah.
and it got into a little more of a linksy element. So I want to, for me, on 13, it was like the king of the golf holes because it was the one hole where even though there's like expanse, we said how things are designed, you still have some context or like corners of bunkers to aim off of. The tee shot on 13 was just like, oh, this is like Scottish links. Like you're just aiming to a spot. And I think this is a good, good line. But you do see this little faint bunker on the right, but you can't really tell like, okay, how much of this do I need? And that faint bunker gets bigger as you get closer,
Yeah.
but really, really cool kind of weirdly intimidating tee shot, even though you have a lot of space to operate, almost
Yeah.
awkwardly straight. But then that green sight, I mean, it's one of my favorites. Again, it's another feature of a left to right slope. I hit a really good drive, took an aggressive line, didn't have a long club in, and I'm looking at that pin tucked right. And I go, and I remember I hit a shot like hole high, 20 feet left. And when I hit it, I was kind of like, oh, I pulled it. And I get up to the green and I'm like, this is the best. This is that's the shot you had to hit, because if I flirted with that pin, I was an idiot. Or, Aaron, I think you probably necked your drive a little. He had a longer club in. He played
A little slow.
the kind of the height of the low, the low kind of cuts slope in there. And he funneled it up to, 15 feet. And I just said, like, again, for a kind of a meaty, big golf hole, it still gives players of all skill levels an opportunity to get after it. And it's the marking of great golf for me.
Yeah. Thank you. That hole we probably did the very least amount of anything to.
Mm.
That hole stayed on every plan we
Mm.
made. When I stood on
Mhm.
that tee, I go, gosh, I mean, all we got to do is grow grass on this and maybe flatten a little bit where the green is. But that peninsula the green kind of sticks over on was there. It was a funny story too, is that upper fairway all the way to until you get to within maybe 30, 40 yards of the green, we just didn't even touch, not, except for the bunker. And
Mhm.
I literally, so we just knocked the alfalfa down, tilled it, farmed it a little bit, but didn't really change anything. When we seeded that thing, it was ready for play within 30 days. So the seed hits
Oh,
the
wow.
ground, it grows up, we mow it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and in 4 weeks, it goes from, and it was one of the later fairways. I mean, we were kind of in order at that point, and it was ahead of number 2 in no time, say.
Huh.
It just grew so fast because we didn't touch the soil. And even though the
Wow.
soils are great out there, and part of the reason it's such a good or such good land for golf is, but that hole was just, we threw that seed, and like I came back 4 days later and it's an inch long, and they're mowing it, another week later and ready to open. So
It was born. It was born to be a golf hole. That's for
yep,
sure.
yep. And you're
It.
right
it
about that tee shot, because it's very wide, but there's a slight concave to it. It's kind
Mhm.
of rolling off, and it's
Yeah, it slightly obscures like you don't exactly know where you're landing it, and
yep, yep,
It's also the most exposed I felt on the golf course, just like to the elements. Maybe the wind just happened to kick up around them, but it was like,
yeah.
shit, buckle up and get through this hole. I felt like it could be a disaster hole,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
right? Anyway,
Especially if you fan that approach, that's where
yeah.
you'd really get in trouble. And that leads you right into 40 reasons why I like this stretch of 13, 14, 15. One of my favorite things is a great short par 3. And I know there's a championship tee that they had set a little ways back, but it
You
looks like
skipped 15, Goldie.
I'm on 14. I didn't
Oh,
skip
so,
it.
oh,
Yep.
yeah.
sorry. Go, go,
Yeah.
go, go.
14 to par 3. Yeah,
Right
Yeah,
on.
the
Go ahead. Sorry.
par 3, the short par 3. And it's
Oh,
they had how they had it set up was, I mean, they had it set up from like all the tees were playing the same shot, which was fine with me. But the unique feature to me is I love a great short par 3, but normally it's like this postage stamp 7, that pebble, like it's these small greens. Um, this had a massive green, but it
yeah,
effectively plays small because I could see the pinnable locations. It's like you got to fly it onto this shelf, keep it there. Or there's a bowl to this shelf, but you can get ejected a little bit. So again, anything about the background into that and your thoughts just kind of on. I'm a big par 3 guy. I
yeah,
love. So we talked with Brian Schneider at Old Barnwell, and they have 3 par 3s. Obviously, for my OCD, it's kind of interesting, but they have a short, a medium, and a long, and they're unique and they're awesome. And when we go to these courses, like I'm very, very particular about the variety the par 3 gives me. And I was excited when we got to this one because I was like, oh, you could go put this tee a few different yardages, move this
yep,
pin a few places, and I could play this. I could play this hole all day.
yep. It's it's the classic short hole, loosely based on the short idea, which was, I believe that came from, is it number 8 at St. Andrews? Doesn't
Mm.
have anywhere near the contour, but a green that's easy to hit, but doesn't necessarily, if you just hit it on the green, that doesn't mean you got an easy deal. That green has lots of movement in it. Again, it sat there. That hole got better when we built the wash right in front of it, even though unless you duff it, it's really not in play, but it really just visually set that hole apart, being just really a central or a waste bunker in front of it. No, it was really just to try to compartmentalize that green so that, like you said, a lot of good players are hitting wedges, 9s, maybe 8 irons in there. And to hit the green is one thing, but you can get a 50, 60 footer there that you're going to really work hard to 2-putt. And so there's kind of that pressure of a short hole with a difficult green, as opposed to, like you said, the postage stamp par 3.
see,
Yeah.
now I'm remembering why I kind of forgot about that hole. I sculled a wedge off the tee that went right into the back, like just into the bushes. I was able to get a club on it, made a 4, but
Yeah,
I ruined what was going to be a really fun
yeah,
tee
Yeah.
shot.
I was worried because Aaron, he was a couple deep then, and I was like, oh, the
Here we
thin
go.
pitching wedge came out, and this could be a number. But getting out of there with
Because
a
it lulled
4
you to
from-
sleep. It's almost like, time to attack, and then shit, I
yeah.
just should have stayed focused.
I think the
I like-
first 10 times I played that hole, I didn't make a par. I made 5
Okay,
birdies and
fair.
5 bogeys, or maybe
Yeah,
a
I could.
Yeah.
double, and you know,
Well, that it kind of is. It's like you're either in that little zone or you're not, and if you're
yeah.
not, it's very difficult to convert. So I got scolded before. I was accused of skipping this hole. I would never do it. So let's talk about 15.
15's
Uh,
amazing, and I know we need to talk about the second shot, but that green is awesome
Yeah.
and
yeah,
unique for the course too. Like this sliver of a green where
yeah,
with the sand traps kind of like baked into it in the front too. And we were both in that front right trap, and I truly enjoyed the shot. You couldn't full blast it. You had to be really careful, but it felt very natural. Everything up there felt very natural.
yeah. Dan, we had a front pin that day, and I had a
Yeah.
note here. It's the short par 5 that maybe you just shouldn't be going for into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you know, I don't know. I took on the risky line of the bunker right to try to force it down there, and I caught some bunker, so I didn't have a green light. But Aaron, we both hit it, as he said, to a green side bunker, kind of short right or hole high right. But man, I don't even know what you class. I've never really seen that kind of green side. I don't know what it's almost like a miniature volcano hole. Almost. I don't know what you
Yeah.
would call it, but it's really really cool. Was that just sitting there? Or did you guys build that out?
Oh, we built it. But it was kind of, a lot of the things you just said is what we were trying to achieve. The back portion of the back half of the green is pretty receptive and large, and so it's kind of the opposite of a lot of places where your tough pins are in the back corners, on a
Mm-hmm.
neck back there, and in this case it's the necks in front with the
Yeah.
really deep bunker
Mhm.
left, and then the 2 smaller bunkers right. That I when they play the Northwest Open, one of our biggest PGA events in the Northwest section, I've had a lot of stories of guys saying, "Well, I was going good till I got on 15. I went back and forth to the bunkers a few times."
Shit. Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's so awkwardly flat. Like it's like you almost like, should I just like try to maybe putt this just to get it out there? Because it's
Yeah.
not really like Aaron said, you're not hitting like you're either having to hit the touchiest of touchy, like you're hitting like a 2 yard spinner out of there,
yep,
or you're almost chipping
yep,
off of it. And it's a very awkward position to be in.
yeah. The it's funny. It's kind of like a rom. No, what do they call it? The romantic comedies,
Hmm.
right? For a lot of my golf pro friends that started playing that in that event, I get a phone call and says, "You son of a bitch, why 15? You got, I just hate them, right?" And then they fall in love with it.
Oh
2 years
yeah.
Yeah.
later, they're calling me up and say, "15's the best short par 5 I've ever played in my life." It's just it's so risk reward. So it's a
Hmm.
par 4.5, really. Most good players can hit, can get it into an iron or a hybrid. And, even the modern young guys hitting 8 irons into that thing and stuff.
Yeah.
And, but it's strategy, it's difficulty, it's doable. A lot of people that
Yeah.
have been bitten by it play to the right. There's a kind of a center line bunker about 30-40 yards to the right, and people play right of that, and now the whole green lines up, even that skinny front part, and they can, you know
Yep.
you can get a
Yeah.
real safe par there, and chance for birdie. And
Yeah. I
If I
think if
did it
we're,
again, that's what I think I would do.
yeah,
yeah.
We both got aggressive on our second and kind of just got away with it, but it could have got
yeah.
squirrely.
If you're if you're in that range where you're hitting a 6, 5, 4, and you can kind of get some loft or even a utility or a hybrid, it's not a bad play to just play to the back part of the green and putt back
Mm,
down into that skinny, because it's pretty big and receptive back there. A little bit
yeah.
of
Yeah.
a bowl around it, and
Yeah.
but I mean I think I love short par 4s. I love short par. I like short. I like short par
Mhm.
3s,
Sure.
short par 4s, and I love
Yeah.
short par 5s. That and maybe that comes from all of us watching Augusta and seeing tour players play these great par 5s. You know, number 13 primarily, and 15, where it's risk reward and you got to go for it. And most 550, 60 yard par 5s, only kind of elite players can do that. And so when you can get a par 5 that's even sub 500 yards and a lot of people are shooting at the green, well, that's the beauty of those holes to me. And that
Yeah.
half par effect is, if you're playing a tournament there and you're up against a good field, you got to make a 4 there. A 5, you're losing a stroke, and
Yeah.
that puts the pressure to go for it, and
Yeah.
because it's an iron in. And so yeah, it came out pretty
Yeah.
fun.
When maybe data golf would tell us just it's firm up front, just leave it about 20 yards short if it's
Yep,
that front pin, and you could almost putt it up to the flag from
exactly,
there. So
exactly.
How important's an eagle to you is kind of
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was good. So, we're the closing stretch here, 16, 17, 18. I just had more of a, this is, I'll clear the stage for Mr. Golfberg's conclusion. Of course, we teased it earlier, but, 16 championship, big boy par three. That's all I could say. We had a back right flag too. So it was
Oh,
like,
that's tough. Yeah.
and it seeded a birdie, I believe, to Mr. Goldberg
Oh,
snake.
cool.
It's maybe about a 20-foot snake.
Ender. Yeah.
Yeah, and
David Kidd made his first hole in one on that hole.
oh,
He
really?
Hey.
was on his way to Gamble Sands,
Hmm.
and he happened to be with somebody from the media, and they played the golf course, and he goes along on 16 and makes his first ace. So it's
No
one of his
kidding.
favorite holes.
Yeah, it's the best golf hole ever. And
Hell
then
yeah.
and 17. Whoo, that you can get sideways on 17. There's some decisions
And,
off the
and
tee.
we had the front pin, which I think is
That
probably the fun pin
Yeah, it is.
or the
yeah.
challenging pin.
It's a
So,
really
Yeah, I
fun
don't know
pin.
I don't know if they really, I think the crew out there, they really did us a favor of giving us the pins that you get to see the full teeth of
Yeah.
of Wine Valley, but the scale of that green and that slope and the runoff and how wild that bunker is left if you miss it. It's definitely a hold on to your pants 17th hole par 4.
Yeah.
but what's
Yeah.
fun is I had like a sawed off 8 and
Yeah.
it was bounced in front of the
Dude,
green and I got another one of those unbelievable bounces.
yeah,
Kicked
I
right up on
mean,
the green and settled right
Yeah.
in there.
yeah, well, yeah, you were going back and forth between clubs, and you
Mhm.
decided to saw off the 8, I remember, and you hit it good, but it had this low trajectory relative to an elevated green. And don't get me wrong, it was 10 out of 10, but it hits in like the perfect spot, yard and a half short, kills it enough to just release up, get out of
Yeah.
there stress free. I mean, it was pretty incredible stuff.
No, it was just and
I did
I
I did
credit
not.
the turf. No, you didn't.
Um,
That you were in the crazy ass left bunker, not even in the bunker. You were in
yeah, I
the
was.
deep weeds around the bunker and it
Yeah, I
was
got caught on the upslope.
Oh, did
So,
you?
yeah, I may have whiffed, but double hit it and didn't count it, and just to make myself feel bad or feel better about it. But the whiff was a practice stroke, I think. So we go to the 18th, and who doesn't love a par 5 18th? It gives you that last chance at glory, but it's also
yep.
cool, right? Like it's this elevated tee shot. It's kind of like launch it if you got it. There's a couple landmines out there, but you can really let it rip because it's pretty long too. And you see the clubhouse in the background, but then you got this approach that kind of works back uphill to this just green that just not really, I wouldn't say subtly, but it just works from back to front. And of course,
Yeah.
we kind of had a frontish pin on that too, not like all the way, but enough to where you're kind of in the middle of that, the
Yeah.
severity of the slope.
But you also have
Short.
to plan out your second, right?
Do what?
Because of
Yeah.
those you have to plan out your second
Yeah.
shot because of those pop bunkers.
Quick story about so you're back there hitting your second shot, and there's a left side green bunker, and then there's a right side one that's kind of midway back. I think there might even be 2 bunkers left. And then
Mhm.
there's one about 30, 40, 50 yards right that you kind of a big carry bunker that sticks out from the right side. But then out in the left where you'd probably lay up, Dan Proctor, who is famous in our world as a shaper. Proctor and Axelin, they built Wild Horse in Nebraska and
Mhm.
worked lots of courses for Core and Crenshaw, and great architects on their own. And one day we were building, and everybody goes up to the farmhouse to have a beer afterwards, and Dan didn't come up, and you couldn't really see that part from the farmhouse or anything. Then the next day I'm kind of driving around on a little motorcycle looking at the projects and stuff, and Dan had just made that little bunker one day with an excavator, didn't tell anybody, didn't ask or anything, he just built it. And
Wow.
same old thing, it was like, damn, I wish I'd have thought of that. Because it
Dang.
really, now the layup is in your head, you really have to think,
Mhm.
okay, I don't want to hit in that thing, even though it's very small and hard even to hit in, but it really dictates a lot if you can't get home in 2 of what you do. But
Well,
yeah, the real key to that green, I think, is that right front slope kind of gets more severe as you go back, and the ball will roll off, and so you'd face one more of those, can be a little bit of a nervous chip shot that's hard to get up and down. And
For sure, but the course is so inviting to the eye. It's also just like feel it out and go play your ball. And all day, that's what I'm doing. But all of a sudden, on the 18th hole, I've got Goldie going, okay, wait, let's think about this shot here. We got these bunkers. Where do you want to be? How far do you want to be in? And I'm like, oh, thanks, Caddy. This will be fun. Let's drive this round in. I'll get a little helper here. And let's just say I tried to play conservatively. I put that pitching wedge in my hand again, sculled it again.
It was literally like the exact same number from
like, thanks.
14.
I got an idea. Let's get you the same yardage as you had on 14. Yeah, thanks a lot. But who cares? I ended up
Play to your
once
strengths.
I was behind the green in 3, I saw, I was like, no big deal. Just make a nice little chip, 2-putt. You're fine. Still shoot under par. And we did. We'll be okay. But yeah, very cool, fun, inviting green to end on too. It looked like a lot of opportunities. Andrew took advantage.
Yeah, I actually did the thing though. I hit the right slope and had a pretty nasty up and down. But at that point, I knew I wasn't going to get a flag unless I hold it. So I went for the aggressive shot and I made my birdie to backdoor. Hey, a backdoor to 72, Dan. It's not,
That's good.
for a podcaster, but I knew I was going to be getting the flag for Aaron here, but it was well deserved. He hit he hit 6 or 7 insane approach shots that day that were just 10 out of 10 all world, and not cupcake ones. We're talking from 160 to 210, not just like flip wedges in there. It was fun. It was fun to watch. I made it special.
I credit the turf. I credit the angles and the non-funnels. I'm not going to call them those, Goldie, but whatever's going on there, that course is made to play. It's just fun as hell.
Yeah. So Dan, I really appreciate you doing that with us. So we obviously you're filling in the gaps for us and these stories and anecdotes, but we try to do this again differently. So for people still checking this out, we try to approach it from a golfer's point of view that, we can play a little bit. We got a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of acumen, but we also don't take it overly serious. We don't want to beat people over the head of every architectural term and that, because I think most golfers, this is how they consume golf. They go on a trip, they talk about it, they recount their shots, and being able to do that with you today and learning a little bit about your background was a lot of fun. So we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And I really enjoyed you guys too. I'm glad you liked the course.
Hell yeah.
And when everything that I do, that's the bottom line is if they hear nothing about me or the owners or anything else, they go play a course and enjoy it. I mean, that's why I do it,
100%. Like we said on the front, it's a little bit of a trek to get there, but like take a course like Erin Hills, you're going to fly, you're going to drive, you're going to take horseback to get there. And then the course is going to smack you in the face and kick you in the teeth. And you're like, I guess that was fun. You go to Wine Valley, it is worth the journey. Like you're just going to have a splendid time. It is just awesome. Yeah. So thank you, Dan.
Yeah, and you're going to do it at a price point that you're not going to be upset about. So,
right.
All right, guys. So let us heads, as always, we're going to see you next week. And most importantly, stay plugged. Peace.
Peace.